Um, what part were you singing when the four of you were gathered up here?
Bass.
Bass.
Yes.
And then your voice goes clear up into, wasn't that about soprano range?
Soprano range is more like.
Okay. I didn't see whatever that was. But I know that I can't do that with my voice. I can do bass. Not as well as him. But thank you so much. We are children of light. We are children of light. We are the light in form itself. Look at your neighbor and say, "You're the light." You're the light. You're the light, since you don't have neighbors there. So the topic today, the subject today is love. I think I just heard that, Damien, didn't I? The subject today is love. Yeah, okay. Subject today is love. Ernest Holmes says we believe in eternal loving kindness. We believe in eternal loving kindness. We are that. In the Science of Mind textbook, he says, ultimately, we shall see that the universe rests on the shoulders of love, that God is love, and that all the errors of man are the result of ignorance of his own true nature. And our own true nature is what? Love, yes. The happy outlook on life is always constructive. The understanding heart is always filled with sympathy and helpfulness toward all. So we are love, because the universe is love. I love, there's a early New Thought writer named Emily Cady who said, God is not loving. That is, God is not a being that is loving. God is love itself. God is love. We are immersed in an infinite field of love. And we are expressions of that right at our cells, our atoms, our subatomic particles, and all the space in between. We are expressions of that love. Breathe that in for a moment. That is who we are, whether we remember it or forget it, whether we know it or not. That is who we are, is we are love. So love is the core truth of this universe. It's the one presence, the infinite presence is love. Now, despite all the hiding, sometimes it hides or we hide from it. Sometimes we wear masks and disguises to kind of block the flow of that love or to keep it from either going out or coming in. But still, whether we remember it or forget it, all is love. You and I are love. Again, take that in at a deep level for a moment. We are love in form. We are love with skin on it, right? Yeah? We are love with skin on it. We signed up for this planet because this planet is love, right? If all there is in the universe is love, if God is all there is and God is love, then this planet itself is love. Everything on it and the planet itself, right? Are we okay? Even that person you're thinking of right now that you sit there and go, no, they're not love. Yeah, they are. They may have really completely, totally forgotten it, but yeah, they are. And love can only be experienced clothed in form. If I were to offer you the idea of chocolate or chocolate, which would you take? Yeah. Yeah, Jim Quibel back there says he knows what I would take. Definitely the chocolate itself. So love, we have to have a form to give and receive, to experience and express that love in. And we are the experiencers and expressors of love. We're an espresso machine for God's love. How's that? That just came to me. We're a love expressor. Okay? That's who we are. That's who we're here to be. To give it, to receive it, to play, to do the dance back and forth. All the love in the universe is love of God. Anything we love, if I love my wife, if I love my friends, if I love my children, if I love nature, if I love chocolate, if I love whatever it is, my dog, my cat, those cute cat videos that Mary was referencing, I think, I'm loving God. All love is love of God, because God is all there is. And we are expressions of that. We are that in form. You are a cellular representation of the love of God, an expression of the love of God. Now, we forget that sometimes, don't we? I have. Anybody else ever forget that once in just a little while? So I want to talk about the forgetting of that, which sometimes we call hatred. And hatred can have its moments. Have you ever noticed? Anybody besides me ever have a moment where kind of hatred was, the thing kind of running? And it may jump up and down and yell and scream and be very loud. Because hatred kind of is that way sometimes, right? Yes? Yep. Anybody watching, the political, almost any election year, but this one seems even a little more so, we kind of get that going. So hate is based in fear. And fear is an illusion. Fear is when I've forgotten that I'm one with the infinite presence of God. Fear is when I forget that God and I are one. Okay? I shared in the first service that a number of years ago, I would wake up in the middle of the night really short of breath, and I would kind of have this kind of little mild panic or anxiety attack going on. And I would get up and I would start walking around, and I would just simply start saying, there's only one life, there's only one life, there's only one life, there's only one life, until I calmed down and remembered the truth, there's only one life. And I want to say that in times of challenge, in times of struggle, it's good to have a little anchoring phrase, I call it a little mantra, a little phrase or something to bring us back to that center. God is love, there's only one life, God is all there is, whatever it is that brings us back. To have something like that, because we all run into moments where we forget, right? And so to have something to help us to remember what is my truth, what is the truth that I actually really believe in when I'm not in my forgetting mode. And so to have that. So I would say that. And what I would find is immediately it would bring me back down to being calm. Not immediately, but it would take a few minutes. But it would bring me back down to being calm, and then I could go back to bed and sleep through the rest of the night, and I was fine. And after a while, that went away, because I kept remembering there's only one life, and pretty soon that became the truth more than what my body and whatever reaction I was having in my body was trying to convince me of. So at our core, we all know that we are one. Yes? At our core. So you've never seen a baby born who sits there and comes out of the womb. There's a famous comedian who said that they had their first child, Angelica. And Angelica came out and said, "Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad. I'm going to be the best child you've ever had." And so they decided that was a good thing. And while they had this good thing on a roll, they decided they were going to have a second child right away. And so the second child, Beelzebub, and for those who don't know, that's another name for the devil, Beelzebub comes out and says, "Hey, Ma, who's that guy? Get him out of here. I'm taking over." And on. It was a whole litany of funny stuff like that. You've never seen a child, a baby, come out and say, "I like you and I don't like you. I like that person based on something and I don't like that person based on something." We learn that, right? We get taught that along the way. Yes? Okay. So at our core, we recognize and we are that love in expression. We just are. If we look in a baby's eyes, it melts us, right? It just touches our hearts. We get the same thing, as you talked about in the prayer, when we look in a puppy's eyes. Many of us. Some who don't like that. Even when I look at puppies, okay, even me, okay, I'll admit it. When I look at a puppy's eyes, it melts. It doesn't, I melt. I don't want, no animal abuse going on here. No. But it melts our hearts. It puts us back in touch with the core of who we are. Sometimes when we're standing out in nature, we're going to talk about nature next week, it puts us back in touch with the core of who we are. So we may lose our balance. We may forget for a little while. We may get kind of way off balance like this. But like a gyroscope, that love, that truth, and that knowing of who we are eventually brings us back to that truth. Eventually brings us back. It always returns us to that center of love of who we are. It keeps pulling on us and pulling on us. That center, that love, is our very DNA. It's our very nature. So we have this desire, our core desire throughout this life is to love and to be loved. Everything you've ever wanted in life. You think it's money, you think it's the new job, you think it's the new relationship, you think it's whatever it is. Everything we've ever wanted in life can be boiled down to, I want to either love, receive love, or to give love. I want to either love or be loved. Okay, that's our core. That's our core. There's a wonderful poem by Hafiz also who says that forgiveness is the cash of the universe. Forgiveness is the cash of the universe. Forgiveness is just simply returning to that state of love when I've forgotten. One way to demonstrate that love is by doing things for others, because again, we're clothed in love. You know, we want to experience that love in form. We want to experience that love with skin on it. And so giving through action, giving through the process of doing something for others is a wonderful way of expressing our love for each other. You love it when somebody does something for you, yes? With no strings attached, just lovingly does something for you. Anybody? Yeah. Okay? Well, because when we're doing that, and we feel good, when we do something for somebody else with no strings attached, we feel good, yes? Okay? Because we're enacting the nature of the one loving itself. We are just simply God loving itself with skin on it. Yes? We're just God loving itself. That's all we are. That's all of us are doing in this planet. Whether we remember it or forget it. We're in pain when we forget it. We're in joy and bliss when we remember it. The way to give to God is to give to others. The way to receive love from God is to receive love from others. Jesus says, whatever you do to these, the least of my brethren, you do also unto me. Because we are all that infinite presence and we are all one. How many of you have ever asked God for $1 million and had a hand come out of the sky, clutching $1 million and hand it to you? Or a new relationship and down he or she comes from the sky in fully manifest form? Yeah, I haven't either. It always comes through somebody else, right? It always comes through somebody else. We are the givers and the receivers of that love. And oftentimes we can sit there and go, now I know that was Spirit working through that because I've been praying about it, and all of a sudden this person just walked up to me and offered me or asked me or whatever, what it was that I wanted and gave it to me. But it always comes through this beautiful clothed form of our skin, of our humanness, of our human beingness. That's how we give. That's how we enact the nature of God. When we give to another, we are really giving to ourselves. And we are really giving to God, because that's all there is. The Bhagavad Gita says living creatures are nourished by food, and food is nourished by rain. Rain itself is the water of life, which comes from selfless worship and service. Every selfless act is born from the eternal, infinite Godhead. That Godhead is present in every act of service, and all of life turns on this law. When we're in the process of being in sacred service, of just giving ourselves, and by the way, this can happen at your job. Just because you're getting paid doesn't mean it's not happening there. But how am I there? Am I just, gotta be here, gotta earn a living, don't really want to be here? Or am I here saying, I'm here to give. How can I give today? Yeah, I enjoy the paycheck. Yes, I enjoy the camaraderie of my friends. But how am I here to give today in whatever I'm doing? There's the famous story of the architect who has designed a cathedral and walks by as there are 3 bricklayers laying the bricks for it. And he asks the first one, he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm laying bricks. The second one he asks, what are you doing? He says, I'm laying bricks to feed my family. I'm doing a job to feed my family. And the third one says, I'm building a cathedral to God. Which of those do you think was operating in more bliss? The third one, right? He's there, he sees the vision, he catches that. So whatever we're doing, we're really giving to God. The Hindus and the Sikhs use the term seva, which simply means selfless service to God. I went on the website, you ready for this? Yogapedia. There is one. It says, seva may be performed by a person in any number of ways, but the term is often associated with the work done in ashrams. The residents of the ashram will perform selfless service in order to further the work of their guru and their community for the benefit of others. This can be considered a devotional practice because by serving others, you are serving God. And then there's the kicker. Performing seva may be a challenging task, as it may raise personal difficulties for the people doing it. They may discover their own aversions to certain aspects of the work. Have you ever noticed that we have certain aversions to certain aspects of work? I don't want to clean latrines. I'm sorry, I don't do dishes. Whatever. However, through mindful awareness of these challenges, seva can be a powerful tool for people to learn more about themselves, their personalities, and the patterns of behavior or thought that are no longer serving them. In this way, performing seva can be a form of personal and spiritual development. So seva is not only just the opportunity to give, it is also the opportunity to grow as we expand. Yes, I'm willing to serve Spirit this way. Yes, I'm willing to serve Spirit this way. Yes, I'm willing to be this. One of the people in our congregation who's done seva for a long time, I think since before I was born, is our wonderful Roy Wolfstead. I'd like to invite him up. And I asked Roy to come forward and say a few words about what seva means for him. I got to tell you a story about Roy. I came out one day, and Roy does a lot of work on the landscape around here, and I saw him. He was out in the brush out there weed whacking with this big old noisy as heck machine, weed whacking away, headphones on and stuff like that. And so I said, so how do you make that a spiritual practice? And he said, I imagine these weeds are my negative thoughts and negative beliefs, and I'm just whacking them out. Weed whacking is a spiritual practice. Go ahead.
Morning, community. So David said everything I was going to say, so I don't really need to say anything. I think it's very difficult to talk about a practice in words. Okay, it's my experience of seva that has changed me, not my thoughts of seva, not the words of seva. It's going, it took me 5 years to get it. I thought I was doing seva for the first 5 years, but I really wasn't. But then one time I was out there and I play a little game with the lawnmower and have the motor ohming to me as I ohm out loud. And it's a good thing it's loud because neighbors might not understand. But I understand. And I finally understood that it wasn't about the beautification of the place that we come to be in community. And it wasn't about supporting my wife. It wasn't about doing something when nobody else knew that I was doing, and that people would come to the center, and because it was beautiful, they could enjoy the beauty and not even think of where the beauty came from. That wasn't what it was about. It was about giving to what I love. And in return, loving not only all of you, but myself. And if you want to use seva as a tool to grow, I invite you to join any of the seva teams here or any place in our greater community. That's what it's about.
Beautiful, Roy. Thank you very much. And if you are interested in exploring this idea of practicing seva, see Roy or his wife Diana, who's in the back corner there after the center, or after the service, excuse me. You can sort of see me, but I'm kind of hard to grab hold of necessarily. But see one of them about doing Seva for that. It's a wonderful practice. It's a beautiful practice. One of the other things I'll say is Seva was, I'd heard the word before I got here, but it wasn't until I came here that I got the emphasis that this community places on Seva. But I have done a lot of what I call volunteer work before that. And I learned early on, volunteer, get involved. It's a beautiful way to connect with people. It's a beautiful way to start to create something you want. It's a beautiful way to learn new things. Deb Black told me that she was listening to Dr. Oz just the other night, who said that by doing that connection process, by being in that process, you actually reduce your chances of getting Alzheimer's by 50% by being connected with other people. So just in case, just in case that beautiful thing by Roy wasn't enough to inspire you, just in case giving, just sacred giving is not enough, you can also perhaps reduce your chance of getting sick, increase your health by doing that. So I want to thank Roy, and I want to thank all the people who do Seva around here. There's so many. So this week I invite us to do 2 spiritual practices. The first one is become aware of where I find myself blocked in giving and receiving love. Where do I find myself blocked in that giving and receiving love? Where can I expand a little bit beyond that block? And we notice that maybe I can't love this person as much as I'd like to. Now, when I say love, by the way, I want to say you don't have to like the person. You don't have to approve of what they're doing. Love is that which sees beyond what we're doing and just simply loves anyways. I love the classic example out of the New Testament with Jesus, who tells the story. It's been labeled as the prodigal son. I think it's really about the father, by the way. And the father has this son who runs off with the inheritance and goes out and parties it and blows it away and all that stuff. The father, as we've talked about before, loves the son through the entire process, right? He never stops loving the son. And so it's when the son comes back feeling low down and guilty, he doesn't even listen to the low down, guilty talk. Because the kid wants to come back and just be a hired hand on his ranch, right? But the dad says, no, you're my son. You've always been my son. I love you. And I restore you to your higher place because you've restored yourself and you've been willing to come back. That love is the love that we experience. And so become aware of where I find myself blocked in giving and receiving love. And when I find the block, when I find that resistance, love it. We don't necessarily have to weed whack the resistance down. We can love it. And don't take a hammer and say, oh my God, I shouldn't be feeling this. Okay? That's not very loving either. That's not loving to you. Love the resistance until it melts. Love it until it melts. The second practice then is find ways to practice Seva. View the world as your ashram. View the world as your ashram. This place is heaven. Right? This place is heaven. I don't mean the center. I mean the earth. This planet is heaven. Now, there's a bunch of people on there who have forgotten that, but we can be part of that remembering, that awakening, that living in the consciousness of recognizing what truly is here. This is heaven. Take a breath. And if you're having trouble with that, invite yourself, just notice you're having trouble with that. Love the trouble, love the block, until it melts. And we begin to see past that. It's just like Roy talked about with Seva. It was a seeing past all the reasons to do it until it became the real core reason to do it, the real truth of Seva, until it revealed itself. And so it may not be an overnight process. But we start loving this place as it is, and recognize the Spirit moving through all of it. And then practicing Seva, practicing that giving of love, and being a place where we let that love shine through the activities, through the process, and through our presence of being here. So that's our spiritual practice this week. Become aware of where I find myself blocked in giving and receiving love, and then find a way to practice that giving and receiving love through what we call Seva. Are you willing to play with that this week? And for some of us, it could be a deep spiritual practice to say, I feel really blocked there, but I'm willing to. I want to close with a quote. It's actually another poem from Hafiz, because I'm just in a Hafiz mood today. Very simple, one sentence. I am a hole in the flute through which God's breath moves. Listen to the music. I am a hole in the flute through which God's breath moves. Listen to the music. I invite you this week to be that hole in the flute, that opening for God's breath. Play with that this week. Let's move into prayer. And so recognizing that there is one love, one presence, one power, one life, and only one life. That it is a love that is so vast that is beyond our comprehension, that looks upon all of life, all of this planet and all the galaxy and the multitude of galaxies and the multitude of universes. And it is love. All of this is love in expression. And we are one of that. We are that love expressed. Each of us recognizes that within ourselves, and we sometimes forget it, but it is still the truth of us. It is still the truth of us. And we always have the opportunity to remember that truth, because it is the core of who we are. And so I speak my words this week, we remember this truth of ourselves, that each of us, that I am one of the love of God. I am that love in form, in human form. And I'm here to simply open and allow that to express in the most beautiful, perfect ways possible. But I notice the opportunities to be of service, and recognizing that the only service that I am being is to God, to that infinite spirit, that one presence, to Father, Mother, to the wholeness. I recognize that that is all there is. That I'm willing to do the dance of being so in love with God that I am willing to absolutely move past any lack and limitations, any fears, any walls that I have, and be in service to that. For this I give thanks. For each person who is playing with this, who is willing to open even in the slightest to that attitude, to that willingness to be a greater expression of love on this planet, I am so grateful. And for the love, that spirit that moves through all of it and all of us, I am ever so grateful. We open to that presence. We open to that infinite love. We open to allow it to move through us. I release this word into that which we call the law, that creative process of the universe that allows it to move through us. We simply have to be willing and say yes. And we do so by affirming together, and so it is. Bless you. Thank you.